Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and today we're going to take a look at the Castle Arts soft touch pencils versus the Castle Arts gold pencils. Now, Castle Arts just ran a 70% off sale, and so I was able to get both of these sets for less than really the cost of one, and they had free shipping, so I couldn't resist. Don't tell my husband this, but I really don't need any more colored pencils. I mean, I have some good ones. There's a couple on my list. Like, I'd like to try the Holbeins and the Light Fast, but as far as budget pencils, definitely don't need any more. But I couldn't resist. That was such a great sell, and I feel like there's value in these kind of videos where you really see what's out there, because we all have different budget needs, we all have different preferences. So today I'm going to swatch these out. I'm not going to do that on camera, but I am going to put them in color family order, create swatch charts, so those will be available on the Ko-fi shop. But we will look at the swatch sheets, and then I will test each of these pencils and show you the results to see if these are something that you'd be interested in, and if nothing else, to compare the soft touch to the gold, so if you are looking to purchase these, you know which set you think you would prefer, because I do feel like it's a preference. So let's dive in, and I'll be back with you as soon as I get these swatched out. Okay, let's start with the soft touch. Now, I have already swatched these on the sheet that came with it, but I wanted to show you briefly. You get an invitation to their Castle Club. You get a little color and product guide, which just tells about the other line of products that they sell. A color pencil tutorial, just showing you, how you go from line art to this full page color. I always love those that are like, they show the coloring in 5 steps, and it's literally from nothing, and then they're like, oh, color here. Like, look. So here we are, line art, right? Next step, they're like, oh, color in the base of the boat and add some yellow. Here they're like, add a little blue in the water and the red on the flag. And then here, add a little bit of color with blue, and then, hey, look at your masterpiece. I'm like, I don't know how helpful that really is. But anyway, this is like a little manual of how to color. And I think it's interesting they have, well, kind of helpful actually. Unlike the last thing I just showed you, this is actually pretty helpful. It does have a color wheel. It shows how to make the colors. It talks about harmony. It talks about purity and tints and tones and hues. How to gradiate your colors, what your complementary colors look like. There's a lot of really helpful information in this. Your pressure chart, wax bloom, shadowing, shading. There's actually some really good information in this. So that alone, I think, is pretty helpful. It's got a little glossary. So I do feel like this little booklet that comes with it is very helpful. Now, I thought we would take a look at the pencils themselves. I'll zoom in. So they say Castle Arts, soft touch. As you rotate, it has the name and the number. Now, the one thing I will say is I hate when companies put the name like way up into the pencil. I like it when it's more down here because as you sharpen the pencil, you know, once you're halfway done, you kind of lose this a little bit. This wasn't too bad, but it is in silver foil. But because it's on the black and because they use a good, easy to read font, it's not too bad. Vermilion's kind of weird because it's got a lot of I's and whatnot, and L's. But you can see here, this is actually pretty decent to read. And it does have the number on it as well. I did sharpen them. You can see that they are a little off center. Personally, I don't find this to be a problem unless you have breakage issues, which I sharpened all of these and swatched them, and really the only big issue that I had was this pencil. This pencil literally has no lead. I don't know if you can see that. It came with 0 lead, cadmium yellow. So I have no cadmium yellow. I don't know if I reached out to their customer service what they would do about that, if they would just send me one pencil, or you know, what do you do? I am not overly concerned about it. If this was my main source of pencils, I would definitely be much more open arms. They do come in these cases. I feel like the color family order, so I always like my white at the beginning, and they do have it at the end, so not a fan of that. But let's take a look at the swatch chart. So here's the swatch chart. As you can see, it's in pretty decent color family order. I will probably just keep them in this order because it's really not worth all the work. Now, because I don't have a cadmium, I might shift all of my yellows down and then put my white up there, just because I'm used to reaching for my white at the beginnings. I think it's a nice distribution of colors. I feel like, you know, I've got a good range of yellows, oranges, peaches, the reds. There's even, I don't know, this vermilion and the cad red. You know, you have a little bit orange red, a little bit red. I'm okay with that. A nice selection of purples and pinks, because you get the red violets and then the blue violets. So I think that's good. I love the blue range. I like the green range. I like that there's some olivey tones, but then you've got the blue greens, you've got the little bright punchy greens, and even, you know, what I consider like green and then your dark greens. The browns to me are not fabulous. I feel like I'm kind of missing like the tan browns. I mean, you've kind of got cinnamon, which is a little more orangey. I guess you got your yellow ochre here, but I would have liked to see maybe another lighter brown and maybe a little bit more of a grayer brown. But I'm being a little nitpicky. I just feel like overall, this is really good. I would have liked to seen a little less yellows and a little, like, bring them over more into your tans and browns. But you've got some warm grays and some cooler grays. Overall, I think they did a pretty decent job. And there are some colors that are a little bit unique and I really like. So once again, I'll probably keep these in this order. So next up, let's take a look at the gold. Look at the difference in these cases. size-wise this way, they're the same size, but there is a significant depth difference here. So let's take a look at what that is. Oh, me and packaging. We are not friends. Let me zoom you out just a little. Okay. So, part of the reason that we are so much thicker, because you can see now that's significantly thinner, is we get that booklet. So this booklet has a lot of that same information, and then even more information here in the back on maybe coloring things. I never find the coloring part as helpful. However, I really like the gold color theory. Now in this one, I'll zoom you out as far as I can get. So in that last book, I told you there was some coloring things. They basically blew it up into the size of a poster. And then they're showing you what pencils to use to get these different effects, right? If you're coloring a tiger, if you're coloring this lady, if you're coloring this rose. So that might be a little helpful, especially if you're newer, to learn some color combinations. Other pages, let's see, let me just flip it over. So we have our color swatch chart, which I think is interesting that it's literally cut in half, can't go together. They've got their products range and just more information on that. Which, whatever. Okay. Here, this is kind of helpful if you really like Castle Arts type of products. So what this is each of their color lines have the same colors. So I think there's 33 colors out of the 22 that cross over and are the same, quote unquote. But so here, if you look at Naples Yellow Light, I'm going to zoom you in now that you've had the overview. Okay. So this color code says that colored pencils are the red square. So wherever you see a red square, that means there's a colored pencil. The blue is the watercolor. So on Cadmium Yellow Deep, we have a colored pencil, we have a watercolor, and then we have this woodless watercolor. So that color comes in those three things. This gold range is this color right here. So Lemon Yellow Light comes in the soft touch, the watercolor, and the gold range. Lemon Yellow, it looks like, comes in all of the things. So I think, you can see there's quite a few that have multiple areas. But then there's some like this French gold rose that are only in the gold set. So like the Polychromos, Faber-Castell, across all of their lines, whether it be their paint or their colored pencils, Polychromos, their Albrecht Dürers, they all have the same names and numbers. So Castle Rock is trying to do that as well. So they have all of this, and then these colors are their metallic pencils and their acrylic tubes. And then you have the pastel tint color pencils, which my understanding is those are really nice, but they're pricier than some of the other pastel sets. So you may find this helpful. or not, depending on how you use your other mediums. So it's kind of like a universal chart. Okay, so let's take a look. So as far as paper, you get a 250 GSM A5 Bristol board paper, which is very similar to what you would find in nice coloring books. Not Amazon coloring books, more like a Joanna Basford in terms of weight. This is a Bristol, so it's, I wouldn't go so far as to say super toothy, but it does have a little bit more tooth than just printer paper. This would be great paper to see if you like the feel of Bristol. They send you some black paper that's thinner. It's 135 GSM for the same size paper. You get a white cartridge paper, which I think is this lovely ivory, you know, think stationery. It's 130 GSM, so, you know, not super thick paper, but this is quality, like you would write someone a note, like nice stationery. And then you get like your tan tone type of paper, which is 118 GSM, so it's the thinnest of all of these. And some people really enjoy coloring on this because this fills in your medium values, and then you're just adding light and dark instead of pretty much adding everything but your lights in. You do get the color and product guide, and then the things that we already discussed. So that is why this one is so much thicker. I personally will not store all of these with the colored pencils. I don't even know how much of that I'll keep. The paper I'll keep because it's good to play around with. Let's take a look at our pencils. So grabbing, this one is Venetian Red. Now, these also have the dipped ends. They do have a little gold dip on the very bottom, whereas the others were just completely dipped. It has gold writing. Makes sense because they're called gold. I will say these are a lightweight pencil. They're not a super thin pencil. I think it has to do with they just used a cheaper wood. You know, when you pick up a polychromos, it has a little bit of a heft to it. You feel like the value, right? But these would be great for people that get hand fatigue. You know, if you're older and, you know, you really like a lightweight pencil, these might be fantastic. They do have the same Castle Arts, and here it says gold. And then you have the number. Now, the one thing I will say I noticed with the soft touch that I forgot to mention is that the color does not always match the tip. Let me grab one. I apologize for not bringing this up when we were talking about these. But if you look here, right, you have your ultra light. So look at this pencil. And then see how much darker this one is compared to this one? Now look at the swatch. To me, this is fine, right? It's a little darker than what it swatches, but I could live with that. But then look at this one. This one looks almost as light as this, but look at the color. So I feel like the dipped end doesn't match the pencil end as well. These are also extremely lightweight. Same with this one. Same issue. Like, look at the color difference. To me, this looks darker than it swatches, but the dipped end is ridiculously off. I find that annoying when I'm coloring, because I want to be able to look here, not here, to see what I'm getting. This is why I always swatch my pencils. And I found it time and time again. Just, let me see, is it this one? Pick another one. To me, this is a lot darker than this. And this looks darker than that. So keep that in mind with these pencils. I felt like on paper, they're decently colored family order. They're not exact. There are different things that I would change if I was doing it myself. I don't care about these pencils enough to probably change this, because these are not going to be my main pencils that I'm using. But it's interesting. Like, look at this one. Look at the difference between this end. Can you see that? Look at the difference here to the difference here. And then this one, this is Cad Orange Deep. Okay, so look at the tip, way darker than the swatch. The end looks much more muted than it does there. It looks desaturated. The very tippy end is not bad, but look at the difference there. You've got this bright orange compared to the side. So what's that about? And then in addition to that, this one's called Cad Orange Deep, but Cad Orange, I don't know, I guess it's technically darker, but you have much deeper colors. I don't know. I got questions. But I thought I would point that out because I did notice it on there. Okay. Are you ready for this? Here is the swatch sheet. Here is the swatch sheet for the gold. What is this even? We have gold greens here, then it goes to orange, then it goes to yellow, then we go gray, white, back to orange, back to yellow, peaches. I mean, then we get a decent flow going, and then now we're back to the greens. Now we're back to the grays. And then the only thing I can think of is that they're trying to do, like outside of, we've got this green line. Then we've got some lighter colors. These are mostly more mid-value, with the exception of these. Then you've got your gray line, and then these are a little more what I would call jewel tones. So I'm not sure what they were even doing, but this will definitely just gotta go. Like, everything about this is crazy to me. I will say, looking at this though, there are some absolutely lovely colors that you just don't get in other sets. This Venetian Blue Deep, the Mint Green, this Oyster and Old Rose. These are aubergine, like these are some really beautiful, like grayish colors. Some of these jewel tones are really lovely. I feel like there's some colors here that I don't really get in some of my other sets. And so they may be some, when I'm done with all of the review and stuff, I may pull some of these and keep them in a very small, like cup or case by themselves to supplement other colored pencil sets. I don't know. We'll have to see how well they play with others. But some of these turquoises are just beautiful. There are pencils, there's a lot of pencil sets that I'm not thrilled with their green line, and I really love these olivey greens here. And then they've got the brighter greens over here. So I feel like I may do that with these, pull out some of these more vintagey colors and keep them separate. But I will be back when I get these all swatched. But I just wanted to point them out. I did not notice, sorry, Ellie's contributing here. Sorry, the neighbor's getting a delivery, so Ellie feels the need to alert the neighborhood. So let's take a look at the pencil themselves. We can pull one out here. We have the same lightweight issue as the Soft Touch, which may be a good or a bad thing depending. You have gold foil writing instead of silver. They are the dipped ends. However, on this end, we have gold, not a different color, or not this color. I will say overall, I feel like the golds better match the pencil core and end match the swatch. However, there are definitely some exceptions. You can see, for example, if I take this cobalt turquoise green, that is, which one? Which one is it? This one right here, cobalt turquoise green. So you can see that's not awful. Could live with that. It's a little darker than the swatch, but look at the difference here. That's a pretty big difference. I would think that this is much more like this phthalo green, not this green. So there are definitely some that are like that. Here's another one that popped out at me. That's this one here. To me, this is closer to, I don't know. It's not close to any of them, but it's not that. This is a bright lemony yellow color, and this is not. Now, this end matches just fine. So, but overall, they are better than the Soft Touch. However, the one thing I will say is there's some absolutely beautiful colors in this, some of which you just don't see in other kits. I love this vintage gray line here, these vintagey colors, this Venetian blue. I love this grenadine. These are just slightly different than what you would see in other kits. Now, I will definitely be putting these in a functioning swatch chart because I'm not flipping for my yellows from the back to the front and the greens and all. It's, and what is this? We got the random blue down here at the bottom. It's just, it's like, I don't know whether they were just like, just put them in there or what. But, so I will be back when we do that. Okay guys, I'm back. And does this not look like a much better swatch chart? Like a reasonable order that those pencils should go? I thought so too. Both I did, and I broke down, and I did it for the Soft Touch too. And I think that these are a nicer order as well. Both of these are available, they'll be available on my Ko-fi shop at the time of publishing this, and along with all the other brands that I've done. Now, these little pencil marks that you see, that indicate that there's a titanium white both in Castle Arts and in the gold. See how they both have them? So anywhere that you see a pencil mark, that means that those colors are available in both sets. So there's 89 of those colors. So 89 out of the 120 are the same color in both lines. So let's talk about that though. Let me put this aside. Okay, so let's talk about this having the same name and number across the color line. Faber-Castell, if you pull a Polychromos and you pull an Albrecht Dürer and you match up their colors and names, they actually match really closely. Look at this set of pencils. They're really, like, the barrels are wildly different. If you take these two, for example, so these are both ultramarine light. So gold. Oh, and the number on both of them matches, 44. Here's the soft touch. Now those, pretty good, right? But look at the barrels. Look at the ends of the pencils. So let's do the same with the mint green. Wildly different. Different barreled ends. Ironically, the gold, right? The darker of the two here is the lighter of the two there. Look at the pencil tips. Crazy off. So teal green, here's gold. Here's teal green soft touch. So while these aren't ridiculously different there, look at the ends. Look at the ends. It's just crazy to me. If you're going to have the same pencil names and numbers, do a better job, Castle Arts. This one isn't too bad. Still some differences. But same names and numbers. How about this one? Would you think those are the same names and numbers? Pretty similar here. Wildly different here and even here. So you just can't even trust their system of, like, if you knew, okay, they're going to match on paper, but they don't match on the ends. But some of them match not too bad. Like, that isn't awful. That isn't awful. They're pretty different there, though. How about these two? You think they're going to match? Let's see. Different colors, though. Definitely more desaturated here. How about these two? Would you think these two are the same? Look at even the lead. I'm not hating on, or I'm not trying to hate on these pencils. I just feel like if you're going to pick the same name and number, you should do a little better job. All right, last one. And I just pulled pencils seemingly at random. There was a couple that jumped out at me when I was swatching, but I mean, some of these are so wildly different. Okay, so first up, this is the Castle Art Gold. I used just the pencils, but then I did add a little Posca and my new Thule art pens just for some highlights. Mainly just little highlights is all. The rest is all done with the colored pencils, and I thought they did a really fantastic job. I enjoyed working with these. I felt like I could have continued to add more color. It's always hard with these Disney books to really get a full feel for the pencils because, first of all, it's absolutely trash paper. And I'm trying to duplicate something. So sometimes I'll stop layering when I could have layered more. For example, you got a little bit of the white spots in here. I could definitely go back in and add some more color, but I just didn't. But I don't want to hold that against the pencil. It's not that it wouldn't take any more color. So I just want to be clear about that. But you can see there was a lot of detail in this page. I was kind of done by the time I got done. So so don't hold it against Castle Art if you see, you know, little white bits, because a lot of that is just Wendy. Okay, so then this is the Castle Art Soft Touch. Now, I enjoyed working with these pencils too. They do have a little bit of a different feel to them, but I felt like they were definitely up to the task. Once again, I could go in with a blender or some Gamsol or something and blend this all out. I could add more layers of colors for sure. But these colors are a blend of quite a few different colors, and I liked my color mix at this point, and so I chose not to keep going. And then once again, the sky's the limit with this. I could go in and add more variants and more brick-like shapes. I could have made this a little more realistic, but ultimately I did not, and I'm okay with that. Not every page to me has to be a masterpiece. But overall, I have to say I enjoyed working with these pencils. I felt like the pigments were good. Of the two, I probably did enjoy working with the Castle Art Gold a little bit more. They're just a little bit more my style of pencil. But that being said, let's talk about the testing. Okay, so let's talk about testing. So I thought I would spare you all. If you guys have watched my reviews, I've done all the math ahead of time. So there'll be no blooper reel. But mainly just because we're going over 2 sets of pencils, I wanted to do these off camera. So first off, Castle Arts Gold. I would say that they're very readily available. You can buy them both on Amazon, on Castle Arts' website, as well as many other places. So I felt like they were readily available. Price per pencil varies between 50 and 67 cents, depending on whether or not you want it in a case, whether you want it in the tin, also whether or not you're buying the 120 set or the 72 set. Now, generally speaking, these come in 120 or 72. There are 24 sets that are like curated sets, so they're like portrait or aquatic or landscape or whatever they are. I can't really speak to which ones they really are, but I know that there's like 4 or 5 different ones. So those are available to you if you only do a certain type of artwork. So I gave them 3.5 stars for the price, just simply because I feel like they're a budget pencil, but their price is more on the upper end of budget pencils. Not to say they're unreasonable. These are nice pencils. Just that there are pencils out there that are 20 cents a pencil. And these are not light fast. They're not, professional grade pencils. They're a budget grade pencil. I gave them 4 stars for the number available because they don't have a 48 set, a 24 set, a 12 set, like if you just wanted to try a few. They're not open. You cannot buy them in open stock. And for those that are not familiar, open stock just means that you can buy them individually, so that if you really love this color and use it in every project, you're going to run out of that color, and then you would be forced to buy an entire set. That is the downfall to a lot of these budget sets. The barrel matches the swatch. The Castle Arts Gold are pretty good. They're not perfect, so I did deduct 1 star, but overall they're pretty good. They are a pigmented pencil. I broke down the number of colors in the palette. Overall, I would say that it is a balanced palette. That's this one. I just feel like there really isn't a whole lot lacking. Like I said, I would like some tan, but that's a personal preference, and not really anything. Other people might not find that lacking at all. One thing to note, I guess we'll get to that. Pencil appearance and a feel. They are a nice feeling pencil. They're a little lighter weight than I prefer, but that being said, it's not necessarily a downfall. The barrels are easy to read, and I felt like, we ask about the barrels matching the swatch, so I didn't want to ding them twice for the same thing. So to me, I'm basing this on, can I read the name and the number, or the name and number on the pencil? How they feel in my hand, that kind of stuff. As far as opacity, I feel like the golds are pretty decent. Their white's a little weak. I wouldn't say that these are on par with your professional grade pencils. As you can see, like Prismacolor would blow this out of the water, but these are not bad at all. It took about 3 layers to fill up my square here. So I give them 4.5 stars. As far as water solubility, there is ever so slightly a little color movement here. More than I would like to see, but it's not awful, so I gave them 3 stars. As far as blendability, I felt like they blended very nicely. You can see I got a nice smooth blend here using 3 pencils. So I felt like that was really good. As far as opacity, as far as how many layers it takes to reach capacity, not opacity, I gave them 4 stars. It took about 5 layers. At this point, I had to really kind of bear down to get that next layer on there. Other things to note, they have beautiful pastels and beautiful vintage colors, but the colors aren't consistent across both lines. So overall, they got 49 out of 60 stars, which gives them 82%, which is right at the 4 star. And the colors that I'm talking about, when I did this swatch, these vintage colors, to me, did not really fit in well up in the actual swatch, so I just put them all down here. I thought about, I could have put the almond in here, but where do you put it? Do you put it in front of your brown? Do you put it here in the really light? What color is this? Like, where does this even go? So I just felt like keep them all together, and maybe you want to create, a picture using those. I apologize for the glare. So that's what I got to say about the Castle Art Gold. I like those pencils. Castle Art Soft Touch. So about the same price point as the golds. They are slightly cheaper. Here I went 50 to 67. But you can get them as low as 42 cents a pencil. So I guess it should have said 42 to 67. So I'll make that little change. So apologies there. So they are a little cheaper than the gold, but not by much. I gave them about the same stars for the price per pencil. The number available, once again, they have the 120, 72, and the curated 24 sets. So they got the 4 stars. They're not available open stock. I did ding them a lot for the barrel matching the swatch because some of them are just crazy off. But they are a pigmented pencil. I would say that overall, they're decently balanced. I felt like their reds are a little, I wouldn't say lacking, but comparatively, look, this whole thing is purple here. And then these I would consider purples as well. Look how many pinks we have. And yet really, this is an orange red, so assuming that we count this as a red, we're pretty much at the end of reds here. Now we get into red violets, so we only have a few reds. Now, some might say you only need a few reds, but I'm just letting you know. But there are a lot of greens, a lot of green blues, a lot of blues. I think that it's a nice palette. I have no problem with the palette. I gave them 5 stars. I think the pencil appearance and feel is easy to read, easy to hold. Nothing one way or the other. As far as opacity, it's a little weaker than the golds, and they're a little more on the transparent side. This can be a good or a bad thing. I would say that the golds lend a little more towards prismas and feel, blendability, layering ability, whereas these are a little more like a polychromos. But don't misunderstand, I don't think that they are a polychromos dupe at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they lend more that way. It took about 3 layers to fill up. They were definitely less water soluble or more water soluble. So I did take off 3 stars for that. As far as blendability, I didn't feel like they blended as nicely as the golds, but that's still a nice blend. So I'm not saying it's not. I gave them 4 stars, just not quite as good as the golds. Here I kind of messed up, and I started doing my 3rd layer on this 2nd layer. So forgive that one. You can see it's very much like this one. But it only took about 5 to get to capacity. And that's probably being a little generous. Other things to note, besides the barrel not matching, colors really aren't consistent across both lines. I enjoyed working with these pencils. I'd give them about 3.5 stars. Now, you may use these pencils and find that you much prefer these to the gold. That is a personal preference. So when you fill out this sheet, it may be slightly different. Same with, you might count these with the blues, right? You might count these in with your blues. You might count them in with your blue-greens. So this could be a little off. You may blend differently than I do. You might layer with a much lighter touch. So, these are, it's a subjective test. My goal with all of these reviews is to give you information, and then you do with it what you would like. But I don't think you could go wrong with either one of these sets. As far as budget pencils go, I think they're both good sets. I think they're in the upper price point of some of the other sets that are out there. But that being said, maybe they okay, I was hoping to get through this without a blooper reel, but that being said, maybe they've earned that extra money, right? I mean, you can buy these in a nice case. If you watch the Castle Art website, like I said at the beginning, I got a tremendous sale. And it wasn't Black Friday. It wasn't the day after Christmas. It was just somebody in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in said, hey, Castle Arts is having a good sale, 70% off. So I thought, well, for 70% off, Wendy should go check that out. My husband would disagree. But anyway, and guys, my husband's not mad at me. I have my own money, so we're all good. Nobody's getting divorced over color pencils here. But that being said, watch for the sales and check them out if you're interested. Until the next time, take care. Thank you for watching another video from Jazzydoodledesigns. If you enjoy adult coloring content, please consider subscribing. You can now find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. I welcome all comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like the video before you go. And until next time, take care.